Day 2 of pack number 17 in Special Projects begins, and this time it's a vehicle which is kind of inspired by some real-world stuff, but not necessarily designed to be a replica of any specific car. I'm sure there were rally versions of the RX-7 FC from more like privateer teams and private builds, but I couldn't really find any like top-tier official Mazda stuff. Maybe I missed it. There is for the older RX-7, of course, but not necessarily for this one. I love this livery that the player's done because it kind of reminds me of the Mitsubishi Starion that we used to have in Gran Turismo, and that's very much part of the reason why I also did it on a snow track rather than a dirt track. That just kind of gives me Gran Turismo 4 kind of throwbacks. The one thing which I've changed over what the player designed on this livery is I put the larger ducktail wing on the back, because I just personally like the look of it with that old school kind of vibe. So that's up to you if you want to change it or not. Of course, the link to that is down below. Anyway, as far as specs, I'm running roughly on the kind of area which you'd expect from like a 1990 Group A rally car, so like a WRC car of the time. The power did range a fair amount on those cars, but this one's up around 275, as you can see. Also going for that similar kind of weight territory of about 1,200 kilos. You could go for a bit less if you want to, but again, it's down to you. And it is under 500 points with snow tyres, incidentally. You could also potentially use it on dirt tracks if you want to, of course. So if we jump to the ultimate section first, I've gone nothing there, so you don't need to worry about that. Then to jump back to sports, of course, you've got even your stage 1 weight. It has the comfort softs on there anyway, so you don't need to worry about that. For the club sports section, we've got the power restrictor and the ballast, so you really don't need to do much in the way of weight, at least if you want to go for what I've done with that 1,200 kilo region. For the semi-racing stuff, we've got the ECU, the unsurprisingly LSD, the fully limited slip diff. We've got the fully customized manual box, again for that kind of raw old school feel. I have increased the rigidity on this one, which does make an improvement to the car, even in terms of points. We've got the polished ports, the balance tuning, the race intercooler, air filter, silencer, manifold pads and discs. The clutch and flywheel as well with the suspension. Of course, no racing tyres for this one. Of course, the steering angle adapter with the hydraulic handbrake. The handbrake and that, they're optional. You don't have to go for it, but especially for a rally car, I just like the extra manoeuvrability, and it really does help. Of course, we've got the snow tyres, that pretty much goes without saying, and like I said, nothing on the ultimate section. So it's not that expensive of a build, and if you don't have one of these, of course, you can find it in the used dealership section every so often. Now, in terms of the setup, it's actually a pretty damn good car for snow rally in particular. I haven't actually tried it on the dirt, but I would imagine it's probably pretty good for that as well. It almost has that kind of look to it also from that rally era. I'm kind of surprised that there weren't more RX-7 based rally machines through the years. So of course we've got those tyres fitted. For the suspension, 130mm on the ride height, 5 for anti-roll, 30 and 40 for the dampers, 2.9 for the springs, 3 degrees of camber, so pretty hefty, but of course it is a rear-wheel drive sports car being used as a rally car, so you've got to account for that a little bit. As far as the toe, a little bit different to what I'd usually have. Nothing on the front, and then towed in 0.10 on the rear. As far as the diff, pretty straightforward setup. I decided to just try it as it was. Turns out it's already pretty damn good. There's no real crazy oversteer or anything like that. As long as you keep the flow up, keep the speed up, and we'll talk more about that in a second in terms of how to use the car, it pretty much takes care of itself. And it really does like wide open dirt tracks, like I guess the windmills, or here, of course, or in a second you'll see it on the snow course. Very much the kind of track which is about the high speed flow, not really hairpins and that kind of stuff. So 10, 30 and 20. As far as the manual transmission setup, I've got relatively close ratios, 230 kilometers an hour. You could change that up or down if you need to, depending on the track. 50 kilos of ballast, which I've put 35% toward the rear, a nice 50-50 split. No power or, restrictor plate adjustment at all, so 275 horses. Kind of nice how that worked out, actually. We've got no downforce on the front, and I've actually reduced it down to 50 on the rear, so there's not too crazy of a difference there. And then all of the parts, of course, are over here that we fitted. Naturally, all that's left is to jump out on the snow and show you what it can do in practice. Now, just now, I said, of course, it is a surprisingly forgiving car, actually, for a vehicle which isn't really a rally car, to say the least. My main piece of advice, in addition to the advice which I basically always give for a rally build, which is, even if you are, like me, more of an automatic, lazy driving kind of fan, you should definitely use at least least 99% of the time, if not all the time, a manual box. Further to that though, you will be sometimes bouncing off of the red line, which, you know, your mind will be telling you to change up a gear, but if you do that, as soon as you start bouncing off the red line, particularly midway through a corner, and then jump up into the next gear, it really bogs down. So you need to allow the car to be up around the red line, even bouncing off of it if you don't want to do any throttle control, and kind of allow the car to exit the corner just a little bit before you change up a gear, or at the very least allow it to run really through that gear until it's really bouncing off the red line, in terms of speed, not just RPM. You know, a lap or two you'll get a hang of it, and the flow with this car is very rewarding. It kind of does feel like an ice race car, that kind of vibe where the faster you go, the better it is to drive, which is kind of fun, because again, that's what you'd want from a rally car like this. So if you do decide to use it, of course, I hope you have a ton of fun with it. Of course, there'll be another build later on today. Check out the ones from yesterday, and plenty more coming this week in pack number 17. That's it for this build. I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.